Hey everybody, my name is Tribal Instincts, and today I am reviewing for you Airmech Command. Airmech Command is one of the most polished RTS games that I've played on the Vive yet. Now, to be fair, I've really only played probably 2 other RTSs, and while they are a lot of fun, this one probably takes the cake for me. If you don't know, Airmech Command is pretty much a direct port of the game Airmech Arena that is available on the Xbox 360 as well as the Xbox One. In terms of gameplay, there really is no difference from what I can tell. The commands are obviously different. You're using Vive controllers as opposed to an Xbox controller. However, ultimately, the game is identical. So this game plays kind of like an RTS mixed with a tower defense game. The goal is to push your troops closer and closer towards getting the enemy's base. Meanwhile, the enemy's obviously trying to do the same thing back to you. You have mobile troops, you have heavy tank units, you have turrets. So it's a pretty cool mesh. While this definitely isn't as in-depth of an RTS like you would have in like StarCraft or Command & Conquer, this does scratch that itch. All right, so now that you know what I'm reviewing, let me talk about how I feel about it. All right, so pros first. This gameplay does play fairly easily. The controls are, for the most part, fairly intuitive, and it's pretty easy to get in and play. The overall feeling of the game is actually pretty neat. You're in like this really big hangar with a little map on the inside of it, and you're able to move that map around, you're able to see all the troops, you're able to expand it, you're able to zoom in, and you're also able to take manual control of your primary unit, which is a spacecraft that can convert into a mech unit. The ability to go from the high up overall view to getting really, really close to it and seeing the fight right there in front of you is really, really satisfying. I love this. And while it's not immediately apparent, the hangar that you're in is actually your main command center on the map. You only realize this once you start losing and the place is starting to crumble around you. So that was really cool, and it really made the game a little bit exciting right before you die. Now, while that's cool, I kind of question their design elements because around your same table, you see the enemy unit robots as well as your teammates all inside your hangar. So that was a little bit weird, like kind of a conflicting design thing there, but it obviously doesn't really matter. It was still cool, but you know, weird. From a graphics perspective, like I already said, this is a port from the Xbox 360 title. It looks like they reused the same assets, which is perfectly fine because the assets are great. In an RTS, you really don't need the really in-depth, high-detailed, high-poly count items. This works just fine. Like I've said in many other videos, I like the overall cartoony effect, and this kind of pulls that off. It's very bright, it's very vibrant, very crisp and clean, and so for that, I do enjoy this particular graphical art style. From a replayability standpoint, it kind of depends on who you are. So this one has a single player ability. You unlock new troops, you get money, you're able to improve your spacecraft, unlock new spacecrafts, and then make them look different, right? So it has those unlocks, it has the progression. Nothing that like breaks or makes the game, but it's, you know, it's fun to be able to unlock new troops and deploy and sort of play around with different strategies. This game also has plenty of PvP and co-op potential. The games are very easy and quick to get into. You're able to play them, you're able to jump out. Like, so for that, I do like the sort of quick ability for you to get in and play a game on this. Now that said, as a segue into sort of the cons in this, there are not a lot of people playing this title online, okay? So if you're going into this looking for the co-op or player versus player, you need to make sure that you have a friend that you can get into with at the same time. Don't expect to be able to jump in here at any time and just find another person to play with. Once you do have a co-op game going, don't spend a whole lot of time looking at the robot representations of your opponent or friend or whatever it is, because, well, it's kind of silly. Actually, no, it's just broken. So you see the person, you see sort of something like their movements. However, it's just wrong. Whenever the other person looks at what they're seeing as your robot, from your point of view, you see them like looking way off in some other direction. Their hand movements are just sort of awkward. It's just not right. So don't look at it expecting to have like that social feeling of being able to see your friend and like wave at them, because it's completely breaking in that regard. It doesn't make any sense into how they've mapped the player movements to what you see on your side as their representation. Obviously, that's not a game-breaking thing, but it is annoying. I wish that they'd like put a little bit more polish into that, or at least like maybe tested it once to see if it made sense. All right, so now my absolute biggest gripe with this game is the controls. Now, I know I said that the controls were intuitive, and for the most part they are. However, they're not always stable, and that is a huge problem. It doesn't always make sense what you're grabbing and when you're not grabbing it. It's just sort of tricky and finicky, and just sometimes it just feels like it's not doing what you want it to do. Now, I'm specifically talking about whenever you're using the pointer and trying to like select objects or select your troops and move them around. Like that is not great. I don't like pointers in VR as a whole. I would much rather be able to get much closer and sort of like wrap my hand around it, or there's plenty of other UI elements that you can do, like expand a bubble around them, whatever it is. But the pointing element, it just doesn't feel right, especially in this game. Other games they pull it off, but this one they really, I think, need to give some more attention to the control mechanism. Along the same lines, although not as big of a gripe, is whenever you're controlling your individual ship and you're moving it around, it gets you really close, which is great. However, whenever you're trying to fly that ship across the other part of the map, once it leaves a particular part of the boundary, you're teleported away so that it completely changes your view. And that is very disorienting. It's not nauseating, it's not anything like that, but it's just you lose track of where you are because you're not quite expecting the teleport, and it's not exactly obvious where you're teleporting to, so it takes you a quick second for you to adjust to your new surroundings and figure out where your ship is. And I found that cost me a few seconds every now and again whenever I'm trying to fly across a boundary, and then just suddenly everything changes and I'm not flying in the same direction anymore. So that felt really weird as well. I would much rather have some control options to where I just move fluidly with it, or don't teleport me at all. Let me teleport myself and let me just let that ship fly off farther into the distance. So wrapping this thing all up, my final thoughts is that this is a very good adaptation to the Xbox 360 title. This actually felt more frantic than the Xbox 360 title. I'm not exactly sure what caused it. I can't quite put my finger on it. However, I felt a lot more frantic as I was going through this. It was just more exciting than it was on the 360. So obviously we're in VR, we have everything going on around us, there's explosions and stuff, so maybe that's just what it did it by itself. I'm not exactly sure, but I did enjoy the game more than I did on the flat screen. So this game is marketed as $19.99. Do I think it's worth it? Probably. If you're into RTSs, yes, I would say so. If you're looking into this to matchmake with other people, then no, don't do it. It's not worth it there. But if you do have a friend or a group of friends that like RTSs and you want to jump into them, this is a good thing to play on the Vive. I very much enjoyed it for that. And if you're into the single player, this has plenty of stuff for you to unlock and for you to, adapt and change your strategies as it goes through the game. So yeah, I think this is a solid addition to the Vive library. This is a very good adaptation from the Xbox 360 title, and it just works. I cannot wait for more RTS games to come into this and really be able to feel like you are the overall commander of all of your army. I think this is a good first step, and I can't wait for the next one. All right, guys, I'm done here. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see just the raw gameplay, I've released a video that is just 3 of the games, 1 co-op and 2 PvP games, all against user ID 10T. So if you're interested, check the link in the description and go watch some of the actual just raw gameplay before you make your decision. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button below. If you didn't, hit the downvote button and tell me what I can do better. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe and the bell icon, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.